Have you ever wondered what would happen if you took your pet goldfish and dropped it in the middle of the ocean? Or what if you managed to get a great white shark and put it in a freshwater lake? I'm talking about a real-life survival challenge, but for fish. Would the goldfish suddenly become the king of the sea? Would the shark dominate the lake? The answer is a huge no. In fact, they would be in serious trouble, and it would all be over in just a few hours. It's one of the most extreme challenges in the entire animal kingdom, and it's happening every single second of every single day. This isn't about finding food or avoiding predators, it's a battle against the water itself. This incredible survival game is all about one simple thing: balance. Imagine you're trying to build the world's tallest tower of cards, but the table is constantly shaking. That's what it's like to be a fish. Their bodies are basically bags of water and salt, and they live in a world that is either way saltier or way less salty than they are. The universe has this rule called osmosis, which means water always tries to move from a less salty place to a more salty place to even things out. For a fish, this is a life or death problem. It's a constant, invisible force trying to either suck all the water out of them or flood them until they burst. So what's stopping our goldfish from shriveling up like a raisin in the salty ocean? And what's preventing a bass in a lake from bloating up like a water balloon? They have some of the most insane biological hacks you've ever seen. We're talking about superpowered gills, kidneys that work overtime, and even the ability to drink salt water and somehow make it fresh inside their own bodies. It's an epic, non-stop physiological war just to stay alive. Forget your favorite video game survival mode. Fish are playing the ultimate version 24/7, and the stakes couldn't be higher. They are the true masters of survival. In this essay, we are going to dive deep into this hidden world. We'll explore the mind-blowing tricks that saltwater and freshwater fish use to conquer their environments. It's a story of incredible engineering, where tiny cells do the work of giant machines and organs become the ultimate survival tools. We're going to break down how they drink, how they pee, and how they use their gills in ways you can't even imagine. By the end, you'll see your aquarium in a whole new light and understand that every single fish is a champion of a game you never even knew they were playing. Let's get into it. Okay, let's break down the core of this challenge. Imagine you're a fish. Your body is a finely tuned machine with a perfect amount of water and salt inside to keep your cells working. Let's say your internal saltiness is at a perfect level 10. Now, if you're a freshwater fish, you're swimming in water that has a saltiness level of like 1. The laws of physics, specifically osmosis, are screaming for water to rush from the outside world into your body to try and dilute you. It's like having a tiny hole in a boat. You're constantly taking on water. If you do nothing, you'll swell up, your cells will pop, and it's game over. Now let's flip the script. Imagine you are a saltwater fish, like a clownfish living in an anemone. Your body is still at that perfect saltiness level of 10. But the ocean around you, that's a level 35 on the saltiness scale. It's way, way saltier than you are. So, osmosis is now doing the exact opposite. It's trying to pull all the fresh water out of your body and into the sea. You are constantly losing water to your environment. You are in a permanent state of dehydration, like walking through a desert with no water bottle. If you don't find a way to stop it, you'll shrivel up. This is the fundamental problem every fish has to solve. This isn't just a small inconvenience. It is the single biggest energy expense for many fish. They spend a massive amount of their daily energy just managing this water and salt balance, a process called osmoregulation. It's like you're trying to run a marathon while also bailing water out of a sinking canoe. They have to actively fight against the natural pull of the universe every moment they are alive. They can't just turn it off or take a break. The second their systems fail, the environment starts winning the battle, and the fish is in mortal danger. It's an invisible, relentless pressure. So how do they do it? It's not magic, it's some of the most brilliant biological engineering on the planet. Fish have evolved a toolkit of specialized organs, gills, kidneys, and their gut, that work together as a highly efficient team. Think of it like a crew in a video game, where each member has a special ability. The gills are the negotiators, the kidneys are the waste managers, and the gut is the processing plant. Each one plays a critical role in either getting rid of excess water and holding on to salt, or drinking in salt water and pumping out the excess salt. It's a high-stakes, perfectly coordinated operation. Welcome to Team Saltwater, where the motto is drink or dry out. These are the fish living in the vast oceans, from the tiniest tropical fish to the mighty tuna. Their problem is simple but terrifying. The ocean is constantly trying to suck the life-giving water right out of their bodies. To survive this, they have to do something that sounds completely insane. They drink the ocean. Yes, you heard that right. They are constantly gulping down seawater, which is full of salt. This would be a death sentence for us, but for them, it's the first step in a brilliant survival strategy. They need the water, but not the salt. So what happens after they take a big gulp of the sea? Their gut gets to work like a super advanced desalination plant. It has special channels that absorb the water and the salt into the bloodstream. This temporarily makes their blood even saltier, which sounds like a bad thing, but it's part of the plan. The main goal is to get the H2O. Once the water is safely inside, the fish is left with a massive problem: way too much salt. Now they need a way to get rid of all that extra salt without losing the water they just worked so hard to get. This is where the next part of their incredible system kicks in. The real heroes for Team Saltwater are the gills. We usually think of gills as just for breathing, but in these fish, they have a secret second job. They are powerful salt-pumping machines. Dotted all over their gills are millions of tiny specialized cells called chloride cells. These cells are like bouncers at an exclusive club, actively grabbing salt ions from the blood and forcefully kicking them out into the ocean. This process takes a ton of energy, like running up a flight of stairs all day long. They are literally pushing salt out against its natural desire to stay in the less salty fish. Finally, the kidneys play their part, but in a way you might not expect. Since the saltwater fish is desperate to save every last drop of water, it can't afford to pee a lot. So its kidneys are designed to be incredibly efficient. They produce only a tiny amount of very concentrated, very salty urine. This allows them to get rid of some excess salts and other waste products while losing the absolute minimum amount of precious water. By combining drinking, gut absorption, gill pumping, and super efficient kidneys, saltwater fish have mastered the art of living in a world that's trying to dehydrate them. Now, let's switch over to Team Freshwater. Imagine being a trout in a crystal clear river or a piranha in the Amazon. Your world is the complete opposite of the ocean. The water around you is almost pure, while your body is a salty, flavor-packed fish. This means you have the opposite problem. Water is relentlessly trying to flood into your body through your gills and skin. You're like a walking sponge in a rainstorm, constantly absorbing water. If you did nothing, you would swell up, your cells would burst, and your game would be over. So, what's your survival strategy? First and foremost, freshwater fish absolutely do not drink water, at least not on purpose. They get a little bit with their food, but they would never just gulp down the water around them. They're already getting too much of it as it is. Their number one mission is to get rid of all this excess water that's constantly seeping in, and they have a very effective way of doing it. They pee a lot. I mean, an absolutely massive amount. A freshwater fish can urinate up to 1/3 of its own body weight every single day. It's like a person drinking and peeing several gallons of water daily. But this creates another huge problem. When you pee that much, you risk flushing out all the good stuff your body needs to survive, especially salt. Remember, the water they live in has almost no salt, so every grain they have is precious. They can't afford to lose it. So their kidneys are engineering marvels. They are designed to produce huge volumes of urine that is extremely dilute, basically almost pure water. Their kidneys are fantastic at pumping out water while being incredibly good at holding onto and reabsorbing as much salt as possible before it gets flushed out. But even with super efficient kidneys, they still lose some salt. So they need a way to get more from their environment. Since they can't get it from drinking, they use the same secret weapon as saltwater fish, but in reverse, their gills. The chloride cells in the gills of a freshwater fish are also tiny pumps, but instead of pumping salt out, they are designed to pull the tiniest traces of salt in from the water. They actively scavenge for salt ions in the river or lake and pump them into their blood. This is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And it costs them a ton of energy, but it's absolutely vital for their survival. Let's zoom in on the absolute MVP of osmoregulation, the gills. We all learn in school that fish use gills to breathe, and that's true. Gills are covered in feathery filaments packed with blood vessels, creating a massive surface area to pull oxygen out of the water. But you know, this huge thin surface area is kind of a double-edged sword. While it's great for grabbing oxygen, it's also the main place where the fish is vulnerable to the forces of osmosis. It's a giant open door where water and salt can rush in or out, depending on where the fish lives. It's the site of the biggest battle. Because of this, the gills had to evolve to be more than just lungs. They had to become the ultimate border control agency. Think of the gill surface as the busiest border crossing in the world. For a saltwater fish, it's where precious water is constantly trying to escape. For a freshwater fish, it's where an unwanted flood of water is always trying to get in. To manage this chaos, the gills are armed with an arsenal of specialized cells and transport systems that are nothing short of miraculous. They don't just form a passive barrier. They are an active, intelligent filter system. In a saltwater fish, the gills are working a tough job. As the fish drinks seawater, its blood becomes salty. The gills then have to pump this excess salt out into an even saltier ocean. This is like trying to push something uphill. It goes against the natural flow. The fish has to spend a tremendous amount of metabolic energy to power these pumps. It's one of the most energy-intensive tasks the fish performs, second only to swimming and hunting. The gills are essentially a living desalination machine, ensuring the fish can live in its salty home without turning into a fish-shaped raisin. For a freshwater fish, the gills perform the opposite miracle. They are tasked with pulling in salt from water that is incredibly dilute. The concentration of salt in a freshwater river can be thousands of times lower than in the fish's blood. Yet the gills are able to find these scarce salt ions, like sodium and chloride, and actively pump them into the body. This is like trying to build a fortune by collecting single pennies you find on the street. It's a painstaking, energy-demanding process, but it's the only way for the fish to replace the salts it loses through its constant peeing, keeping its internal engine running smoothly. So we keep talking about these pumps in the gills, but what are they really? Let's get down to the microscopic level and look at the real power-up in this survival game, the chloride cells. These cells are also known as ionocytes, and they are the tiny, high-energy engines that make osmoregulation possible. You can't see them without a powerful microscope, but they are one of the most important cells in a fish's body. They are packed with mitochondria, which are the little power plants inside cells that generate energy. This is a huge clue that these cells are doing some serious heavy lifting. Imagine a chloride cell as a tiny factory with a very specific job. In a saltwater fish, this factory is set up for export. It has a complex system of channels and pumps on its surface. It pulls salt ions out of the blood on one side, moves them through the cell, and then uses a powerful pump, like a revolving door, to push them out into the sea on the other side. This pump, called the sodium-potassium pump, uses a ton of energy in the form of ATP to work against the concentration gradient. It's a beautiful, complex piece of molecular machinery that keeps the fish from getting a salt overload. Now here's the crazy part. In a freshwater fish, the chloride cells are essentially the same type of cell, but they've completely rewired their machinery to do the opposite job. The factory is now set up for import. Instead of pushing salt out, it uses its pumps and channels to grab stray salt ions from the fresh water and pull them into the fish's blood. The internal wiring of the cell is different, with transport proteins arranged in a reverse configuration. It's like taking a vacuum cleaner and being able to flip a switch that makes it blow air instead. This incredible adaptability is key to their success. What's even more amazing is that some fish, called euryhaline fish, like salmon or eels, can live in both freshwater and saltwater. When a salmon swims from the ocean into a river to spawn, it has to completely re-engineer its chloride cells. Over a few days, its body gets a signal to tear down the salt-exporting factories in its gills and build brand new salt-importing ones. It's one of the most dramatic physiological changes in the animal kingdom. They are true masters of adaptation, able to flip their internal switches to survive in completely different worlds. While the gills get a lot of the glory, we can't forget the supporting cast, the gut and the kidneys. These organs are the unsung heroes of the osmoregulation team, playing crucial roles that make the whole system work. Let's start with the gut of a saltwater fish. When it drinks seawater, it's not just absorbing a salty liquid. The gut has to be incredibly clever. Its lining is specially designed to pull in water. It does this by first absorbing salt ions into the body, which then makes the gut contents so concentrated that water follows the salt into the bloodstream through osmosis. This process is a delicate balancing act. The gut has to absorb just the right amount of salt to get the water it needs, without overwhelming the fish's system. The intestines of a saltwater fish are incredible at this, separating the valuable water from the problematic salts. After the water and some salts are absorbed, the remaining highly concentrated brine is passed out as waste. It's a two-step process. First, create a temporary problem by absorbing salt, then solve it by using the gills to pump that salt back out. The gut is the essential first step in this chain of survival. Now let's look at the kidneys, the masters of waste management. In a freshwater fish, the kidneys are working overtime. Their main job is to expel the massive amount of water that's constantly flooding the fish's body. To do this, they have a large, well-developed structure called a glomerulus, which acts like a sieve, filtering huge volumes of fluid out of the blood. Then, as this fluid passes through a long network of tubules, the kidney works desperately to reabsorb all the vital salts and sugars before the remaining water is expelled as very dilute urine. It's a high-volume, low-concentration operation. In saltwater fish, the kidneys have the opposite problem and a completely different structure. They need to conserve water at all costs. Many saltwater fish have very small or even no glomeruli at all, so they filter very little fluid from the blood to begin with. Their primary job is not to get rid of water, but to excrete specific waste products and excess ions like magnesium and sulfate that the gills can't handle as easily. The result is a tiny amount of highly concentrated salty urine. So you can see how the kidneys in each type of fish are perfectly tailored to their specific environmental challenge. So we have all these amazing systems, the gills, the gut, the kidneys, all working together. But how do they know what to do? How do they adjust if the water temperature or salinity changes? There has to be a manager, a boss calling the shots from behind the scenes. That's where hormones come in. Hormones are the chemical messengers of the body, and in fish they are the conductors of the osmoregulation orchestra. They tell the different organs when to work harder, when to slow down, and when to change their function entirely. One of the most important hormones in this process is cortisol. You might have heard of it as a stress hormone in humans, and in fish it plays a similar role, but is also a key player in salt balance. In saltwater fish, high levels of cortisol signal the chloride cells in the gills to switch into salt exporting mode. It helps ramp up the production of the pumps and channels needed to get rid of excess salt. It's like the factory foreman shouting, "We've got too much salt! Speed up the export line!" This ensures the fish can handle the constant salt load from drinking seawater. On the other side, a different hormone called prolactin is a superstar for freshwater fish. Prolactin is often associated with milk production in mammals, but in fish, it has a completely different job. It acts as a freshwater adapting hormone. It signals the body to reduce water loss through the skin and gills, and, most importantly, it tells the chloride cells to start actively pumping salt in from the environment. It also helps the kidneys produce that massive amount of dilute urine. Prolactin is basically the manager telling the freshwater team, protect your salt at all costs and get rid of that extra water. The interplay between these hormones is what allows fish to maintain their perfect internal balance, a state called homeostasis. When a fish that can live in both environments, like a salmon, moves from the ocean to a river, its hormone levels undergo a dramatic shift. Cortisol levels drop and prolactin levels rise. This hormonal signal triggers the incredible transformation in the gills, gut, and kidneys, allowing the salmon to switch from a saltwater survival machine to a freshwater one. These invisible hormonal bosses are the true masterminds behind this ultimate survival trick. So, we've gone on a deep dive into the insane world of fish osmoregulation. We've seen how they drink the sea, pee gallons, and use microscopic pumps to survive. But why does any of this matter to us? It might seem like just a cool piece of science trivia, but understanding this survival game is actually super important. For anyone who has a pet fish, this is everything. Putting a freshwater fish in a saltwater tank or vice versa isn't just a mistake, it's a death sentence, and now you know exactly why. Proper aquarium care is all about recreating the right water environment so your fish doesn't have to fight a losing battle against osmosis. On a much bigger scale, understanding osmoregulation is critical for conservation and managing our planet's ecosystems. As climate change affects rainfall patterns and melts glaciers, the salinity of rivers, estuaries, and even parts of the ocean can change. For fish that are highly specialized for a certain salt level, even a small change can be devastating. It can push them out of their natural habitats or put so much stress on their bodies that they can't reproduce. By studying their limits, scientists can predict which species are most at risk and help protect them. This knowledge also has incredible potential for human applications. Think about aquaculture, the farming of fish for food. To grow fish efficiently, you need to give them water with the perfect salinity, to minimize the energy they waste on osmoregulation. The less energy they spend on balancing salt, the more energy they can put into growing big and healthy. Scientists are even studying the super-efficient desalination processes in fish gills for inspiration. Could we one day create new water purification technologies based on the biological blueprint of a fish gill? It's a fascinating possibility. Ultimately, learning about fish osmoregulation gives us a deeper appreciation for the sheer wonder of the natural world. It shows us that even in something as simple as a fish swimming in water, there is a hidden drama of survival, adaptation, and incredible biological engineering. It's a reminder that every living creature is a master of its own unique challenges. The next time you see a fish, whether it's in a river, the ocean, or your friend's aquarium, you'll know it's not just swimming, it's a champion survivor, playing and winning one of nature's toughest games every single second.